Hi, my name is Miriam Gedwiser, and I'm on the faculty here at Drisha. This week's Parashat Vayeitzei begins with Yaakov Avinu's flight from his brother, and the land of Israel in fact, to Haran, and ends with Yaakov on his way back, no longer alone, but laden with wives and children. As Yaakov is leaving, however, at the beginning of the Parsha, we learn that he happens upon a place, Vayigab Makom, sleeps there and has a dream. Vayachalom v'hinei sulam mutzav artza, v'rosho magia hashamayma, v'hinei malachei Elohim olim v'yordim bo. He dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven, and behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. God is at the head of the ladder, or in some readings, of Yaakov himself, and promises Yaakov the land and prolific descendants, and specifically promises that God will not abandon Yaakov, but will return him home. I'd like to focus on the image of the ladder, the sulam. This is the only time the word sulam appears in Tanakh, in fact, which makes it potentially fertile ground for midrashic interpretation. And I want to share one passage from Breshit Rabbah that offers two allegorical interpretations of this so-called ladder. Tani Bar Kapara, ein chalom she'ein bo pitaron. Bar Kapara taught there is no dream that does not have an explanation. Every dream has an explanation. Vayachalom v'hinei sulam zeh keves. And he dreamed, and there was a ladder. This is the ramp being of the altar. We can start to wonder, well, why would you make that connection? What does the ladder have to do with the ramp? But in some ways we can understand how a ladder and a ramp are functionally and structurally similar, sort of slanted things that go up that help get you from a low place to a high place. Mutzav artza zeh hamizbeach, set up on the earth. This is the altar. Now, why is the earth the altar? Mizbach adama ta'aseh li. A verse in Shemot, chapter 20, requires the altar to be made of earth. Rosho magia hashamayma elu hakorbanot sherichan olel hashamayim. And its head reaching the heaven, these are the sacrifices whose scent reaches the heaven, according to the Midrash. V'hinei malachei Elohim, elu kohanim gedolim, olim v'yordim bo, shehem olim v'yordim bakeves. The angels of God are the high priests who go up and down the ramp to the altar. And then from the altar, the smoke goes up to heaven. So it's a little bit changing the imagery of the angels going all the way up and down the ladder, as we might have thought reading the verse. V'hinei Hashem nitzav alav, behold, God was standing on it. The Midrash connects this to a pasuk from Amos, chapter 9, verse 1. Ra'iti et Hashem nitzav al hamizbeach. It refers to God standing, nitzav al, just as in our verse, the altar, though in that context getting ready to destroy those who deserve it. Bar Kapara explains that Yaakov Avinu, as he was leaving Eretz Yisrael and about to receive a promise that God would bring him back, saw a vision of the altar with priests going up and down the ramp and smoke ascending to heaven. The Midrash, however, presents an alternative. Rabbanan Patrein Le Sinai. The rabbis explained it regarding Sinai. And the Midrash later notes that Sulam and Sinai, if you write Sulam without a Vav, as it's written in the Torah, that they have the same numerical value, the same gematria. Okay. Ve'chalam v'hinei Sulam zeh Sinai. Mutzav artza shene'emar v'yityatvu b'tachtit har. And he dreamed, and there was a ladder, this is Sinai, set up on the ground, resonates with the phrase from Matan Torah, that the Israelites gathered at the foot of the mountain. Mutzav artza v'yityatvu b'tachtit har. Okay, same root. V'rosho magia hashamayma, its head reaching heaven, shene'emar v'hahar bo'er ba'esh alev hashamayim. As it is said, the mountain was burning in fire to the heart of heaven, right? So it's a similar idea of some sort of fire going up. And that's in the context of Matan Torah. V'hinei malachei Elohim zeh Moshe v'Aharon, right? The angels of God are Moshe and Aaron. Olim u'Moshe Allah. Going up, this is a reference to the verse that says Moshe went up, and sort of part of the preparatory discussions for Matan Torah. V'yordim, and descending, Vayered Moshe minahar. Going down, Moshe came down from the mountain. Interestingly, this is citing a verse still from the preparatory phase, not from Moshe's actual ascent to receive the commandments. V'hinei Hashem nitzav alav. This is parallel to, right, God in the dream standing at the head of the ladder is like Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai, right? God came down in Exodus 19 to the mountain. So here we have the Midrash presenting two possible allegories for the ladder. Either it represents the ramp to the altar whose fire ascends to heaven, and the angels are the priests, or it represents Har Sinai, which was also on fire, and the angels are Moshe and Aaron, at least according to the Midrash, though interestingly the verses cited mention only Moshe, bringing messages between God and the people. we can understand that these two possibilities might be two archetypes of how we connect to God, through sacrificial ritual or through Torah. And we see this kind of tension in many other areas in Torah. They're not tension, but sort of two dichotomy, we'll call it. Bar Kapara suggests that sacrifice, and we might add its modern ritual analog of prayer, maybe, is the connection between man and God, and between the Jewish people and God, and that Yaakov should keep the sacrificial service, the future sacrificial service, in mind as he enters his personal exile, perhaps the prize on which Yaakov keeps his eyes, as it were, as he yearns to return. This explanation fits well with the idea that Beit Elohim, where Yaakov stops, was the site of the temple. Sinai, however, has no geographical connection to Yaakov's journey. The rabbis, by connecting the Sulam to Sinai, therefore, are suggesting, maybe, that the connection comes through revelation, our connection to God, and we might surmise by the Torah that is given at Har Sinai. By showing Yaakov something outside of Israel, perhaps God was suggesting to him that he could carry not just his yearning for return to the place where he was then, but even the Torah itself to sustain him through the exile. Shabbat Shalom.